ArtCadets, and welcome to this week's video. Today I'm going to draw a pencil drawing of Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast, and I'm going to add a splash of colour. I'm going to use some pastels, but you can use any colours that you like, pencils, paint, pastels, whatever you've got. So if you're ready, let's go. So to start this drawing I decided to use grey paper, and I began by drawing a vertical line and I put a mark in the middle. Now this was just to make sure that I'd got room to draw Lumiere and fit him on, and also to help me with some of the angles that I was going to draw to make him in perspective. So I did a oval circle in the middle of the page, and this was where the top and the bottom sort of met, and I guess that's where his chest is. I then drew a teardrop shape for the bottom half of the candlestick, which is his body, and then for the top half, for his head or the actual candle itself, I drew a circle, no, not a circle, rectangle, a rectangle, and I did it at an angle. So you can see there. For the bottom I did a fairly simple shape for the base of the candle, and then did double lines for the bottom stand. After this I did his arms, and they're just thin, sort of fairly straightforward shapes, and after that I then did some semicircles for his hands before then doing the candles on top. I tried to line up, when you see what I'm doing now, I'm just trying to line up the top of the candle, that's his hand, with the top of his head, just to make sure it's in proportion. But sometimes this takes a little while to get things right, and as you can see I did a few rubbings out and redos just to make it right and in proportion. And then I did a similar shape for his other hand, but this was at a slightly different angle, but just the semicircle shape for the bottom, and then a rectangle shape on top for the candle. So moving on to Lumiere's face, I think this was a little bit more tricky, but again I just did a semicircle for the bottom of his face where his mouth's going to be, and then I followed the line round and just did a little bit more detail. So to mark out where his eyes and nose were going to be, I just did a line sort of 3/4 of the way vertically down, and that's, yeah, as I say, just going to mark where the nose and eyes are going to be. And then I went back on and did the mouth area. This did take me a few goes because it's not as straightforward as his hands. And once I was happy with his mouth, I then moved on to do his nose and cheeks. And on the other side of his nose, because it's a 3/4 view, that means that you can see some of the other side of his face. It's not completely a side view, but you get more of the face that's facing you in view. Does that make any sense? So anyway, I carried on and did the eyes, and then moved on to the top of the candle just to finish it off. So once I was happy with the shapes I'd done, I then went and did the little details around where his wrists would be. And just finished off the candles there. After that I then went and did the base of the candle, and that's fairly straightforward, and just did some shapes on there, as you can see. And I redid the candle again because I still wasn't happy with it. And when I was, I then went in and outlined it all in black. Now I thought this would make it stand out because of how I wanted to shade it in. So this time I thought I wouldn't do it all in black and white, but being that I haven't done a pencil drawing for a little while, I thought it'd be nice to do some shading effects with pencil. And just to make it a little bit different, I thought we'd add a little bit of colour to it, but again, I didn't want it all pencil and I didn't want it all colour. So I thought we'll start off by outlining it in black, and that will give it a nice effect. And then I added just one colour, two colours in at the end for his candles, as you'll see. So for this part, any black fineliner will do. Being that we're not doing any painting today, it's not important that the pen you use is waterproof. So yeah, any fine liner, felt tip, or even biro will do if you haven't got those. So that done, I then went and rubbed out the pencil marks that I've done to do the sketch underneath, and cleaned it up a bit before then going in and shading some of the areas with my pencil. I used a 6B pencil, so that's a really soft dark pencil if you like, but any B pencil will do. And you don't need to press very hard, you just need to build up the shading by using layers and circular movements, as we've talked about before. And for the shading of Lumiere here, it wasn't very tricky because generally it was just picking the darkest areas, which is his mouth, and then judging everything on that. So once you've got the darkest areas in and you know what the lightest areas are going to be, you can fill in the bits in between with various shading as you want. For the shading itself, I didn't, all I did really was just to go round the areas where I'd outlined and make the lines slightly thicker. So it wasn't very technical, as you can see here. It just gives it a nice effect, I thought, and makes them come to life. So if this video looks slightly blurry in areas, I'm really sorry about that. I think the camera that I was using was on autofocus, so every time my hand moved it did tend to then focus on my hand and not the drawing, but I don't think it stops you from seeing what I was doing. So hopefully I'll sort that for next week and that won't be a problem. So when I was shading his body, I started off by doing a darker line of pencil around the outside, and then gradually shading into the centre where I left it, the grey of the paper. And then lastly the base of Lumiere, that was slightly darker, but again just going around the areas where I'd outlined in black, just to give it a bit more of depth and 3D looking. And once I'd done that, I just did the last bit at the bottom before then blending out and to smooth it all out. So I'm using my pencil blender here, and that really blends it quite easily. If you haven't got one of these, then that's fine. You can use your finger, you can use a tissue, cotton wool, anything like that, and that will do the same job. and then at the end there I'm just using the pencil that was already on the blender, the pencil stump, just to create a little bit of shadow. So the colour that I'm adding, if you can call white a colour, is just to really kind of make those candlesticks stand out, and then I chose a yellow pastel pencil just to go round the white areas that I've drawn and make it really stand out and glow. But as I said before, if you haven't got pastels, that's fine, you can just use your colour pencils or felt tips, and that's great. For the rest of Lumiere, I didn't go in and do any more white highlights on his candles and candlestick holder, so I just did his teeth and the whites of his eyes because I thought it'd look really nice and stand out well if I went round the whole of Lumiere using my white pastel pencil, which is what I did here. And after that, he was done. So sorry about the focus today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed drawing this one, and I'm looking forward to doing another one like it next week. Well, that's all for today, ArtCadets. I hope you've enjoyed drawing Lumiere and having a go at shading and using a splash of colour. Next week we'll be gonna do another picture with pencils and adding a little bit of colour as well. So join us for that. If you've liked today's video, then please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, comment and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Bye!